Ooh. Well, last night we had a big old... There was a tornado in it for a while. Luckily, I don't think that the tornado hit any buildings directly in Lubbock. But we got some pretty bad hail, and it took out one of our windows. It was a double paned window too. It was a pretty big hailstone, but they were saying that they were up to lemon sized. So like 2 inches about. That's a pretty big chunk of ice. There's bad flooding everywhere. So I'm getting off to work real late because I had to wait until I could get a hold of someone to come look at the window. And then my truck has a crack in the windshield now, perfectly round, so I guess tomorrow I'm gonna have to take a look at that and see about getting that fixed. But yeah, it was kind of a rough one. We ended up staying with my sister-in-law last night because our electricity was off, and it hadn't come back on by pretty late. I think it was almost midnight already, so we left. Oh, I've left closer to 10. And then I stayed and cleaned up a bit because we were in the middle of having supper when the storm got close enough that we had to go take cover. Because it was well north of us where we were, and then it started tracking more and more south, so we ended up taking cover in the closet for about an hour and a half. It was a real slow moving one. It just kept on kind of turning in the same place it was. But luckily, the worst of it didn't hit us. We just got the hail. So, it all ended up okay. I'm hoping that we can get somebody to come look at our windows soon. But, yeah, it broke clear through 2 panes of glass. Luckily, I'd closed all the window blinds, so the glass all just kind of shattered and fell straight down. There weren't any pieces that flew into the room so much. But yeah, driving past now, a ton of stuff is flooded. But, yeah, I was talking yesterday about how I actually, my wife and I were wanting to do some storm chasing and all, but definitely still interested in that. But it is still scary, especially when your daughter's in it. The dog was all freaking out. We were all closed up in the closet, and the dog was just not really happy about anything, sitting there in the corner. And then my daughter was just watching the Wiggles on her phone. luckily, I've had some stuff downloaded, so even when the power went out, we were okay watching it. Ooh, looks like a billboard got completely destroyed. Pretty good size one too. But there's a lot of damage, for sure, but luckily not as much as there could have been. Because at one point it was like a mile-wide tornado. It was bad. It would have really torn up Lubbock if it had hit. Oh, yeah, I'm just not feeling as talkative this morning, I guess. I'm real tired because I was up late. Got up and was doing stuff all morning already, but still haven't had any coffee or anything. I really try not to get dependent on coffee to keep me awake. I don't like just having caffeine to wake me up, but some days you need it. I really like coffee, just the taste of it, but I try not to get too much of the caffeine, so I've been having just about 1 cup a day when I used to do 2 cups a day. And that's just like store, like HEB brand coffee pods, not even like that Starbucks stuff, which is ridiculously high in caffeine. Like a small Starbucks drink has more caffeine than you can have, or than it's recommended to have in a day sometimes, because it's recommended to get like less than, I can't remember if it's less than 500 or less than 200. I think it might have been a pregnancy thing. Yeah, I think it was, if you're pregnant, you need less than 200 milligrams. And so they generally say 1 cup of coffee is okay, but you shouldn't have any if you can handle that. But then, yeah, Starbucks, 1 cup of coffee is not 200, it's like 250 or 300, something like that. I can't remember. I just know that Starbucks coffee is not safe for pregnant women, which is just like ridiculous when you think about it. But it's really high amounts of caffeine. People just get that every single day sometimes too. Oh, there's a tree that fell down. Signs blown all over the place. Oh. But yeah, the morning after a storm, it's always weird to look out and see all the damage and yeah, there's some more trees down over there. There's a shopping cart in the middle of the road. Yeah, I think this is kind of right in the area where it was going through. Wonder if any here at the office. But yeah, all the drainage lakes around here are completely full and overflowing too. It was just a real downpour. But that happens every now and then living in this part of Texas. I know it's strange to some people having this happen 2 or 3 times a year, but that's what happens to us. I feel like it's been just about the start of June every year. We get a bad hailstorm, and usually it comes with a tornado warning, or at least a potential. But yeah, we usually get about 2 to 3 tornado warnings per year, which isn't bad. And usually they're not even right on us, they're kind of in the area, so it's something you gotta watch for, but it's not the worst. But yeah, we had a particularly dangerous situation warning given last night, which doesn't happen all that often. Well, no, I didn't talk too much, but it is one of those mornings, just a little slow. Maybe I'll be more talkative later after everything's calmed down a bit. Oh, I nearly forgot to start recording again as I got in the car. Just one of those days, I guess. Oh. Oh, even though it can be rough sometimes during real bad storms, nature is very beautiful. And, everybody kind of knows that, but, I mean, there's just something about a storm, about the sunset last night. So, I went outside after the storm passed to check for damage, and the sun was starting to set just behind all the storm clouds, and it was beautiful. And then as I was driving at night to go to my sister-in-law's, there was a second storm that had been following up, and it was off in the distance, and there was just lightning every couple of seconds. Lightning is just so beautiful. It's scary, and you don't want to be near it when it goes, but from a distance it's quite something to see. I think there's a lot of things like that where there's some beauty in the dangerous parts of nature that makes you just want to stop and stare. Definitely want to start growing some plants, just like food plants, vegetables, and different herbs are nice to have, but even flowers, there's just something about a living thing or a natural thing that is completely unlike anything people make. There's just so much more to it than I feel like you could ever put in yourself. There's detail on detail, and every single little part is just made with such care. God's just made beautiful, beautiful things all around us, but so many times we forget to stop and stare, stop and listen, and look at all the amazing things in the world. There's so many different flowers that are just, if you really stop and look at them, the petals, each individual petal is just so smooth but has detail all over it. And the colors are so vibrant. something that I think we forget is possible in nature, because you're just so used to like bright neon colors from screens and all these artificial pigments, but then you stop and look down and you see it all in the world around you. I really think I'm just tired of not having that around all the time. I'd like to just be able to step outside, see the beauty of the world around me. You know, it kind of makes me think, because these days people are talking a lot about different things, and some of the podcasts I listen to, they talk about, do you believe in aliens? Do you think there's life out there in the universe? And you know, it's something of a hard question for Christians, because I think too many people who are Christians just kind of immediately answer no, that God made humans special and that He just set us apart so we're the only ones. And while I do think that humans are the only intelligent life, I think about penguins and polar bears. There's so much life on this planet that humans didn't see for thousands of years. Just like there's fish that exist beneath a kilometer of ice in the Antarctic. I saw a thing where like they drilled a hole and were sampling a lake, and they found fish that have not seen the sun for longer than any nation on earth has even existed. And it's just crazy to think how God puts life in all these places, even on earth, that I think He could easily put some other planets out there. The whole universe just has so much beauty in it that reflects the beauty of God. The stars in the sky, the nebula stretching through space, all these things that have been there since the universe began. And God just put them there for us to discover, but we never knew them for years, yet they were still out there. And so I think there's probably life out there in one way or another that God put there just to show us that there's more to this universe than we could ever imagine. And it's not just our little corner of the world that exists. Too many people kind of lose sight of how big the universe is, and that we're just a small part of it. And I think a lot of people get scared, because it is scary to think that there's this whole universe out there. We're just so small in it. But whereas I feel like to somebody who doesn't believe in God, that makes them feel like they're insignificant, or it makes it feel like there's nothing really on this planet that matters, because in the end everything's just going to go away. But as a Christian, I feel like it makes it more meaningful that God still cares. Like, I am just this one tiny little speck. There's a whole world around me that is more big and complex than I could ever imagine. And that's just one of billions of planets around trillions of stars. It's just impossible to even comprehend how giant that is. It's infinite. The amount of beauty in the world and in the universe, but despite the fact that that's bigger than I could ever even imagine, God still knows me. He still knows me more intimately than I even know myself, and cares about everything I do. Even though it doesn't always feel like anything even matters. It feels so often like I'm just alone and adrift in the wind, thrown by life's winds this way and that, but God's still there. He still cares. I step on so many bugs every day without even realizing it. I go on a walk and see thousands of ants crossing the sidewalk, and I just step on past them, roll my daughter's stroller on them without even thinking. But that's what we are in this world, is ants all over it where you can see them, but you don't really stop to notice. But in the end, God doesn't just trot on us and move on without even thinking. He cares about each and every one of us and takes the time to stop and know each of our lives. And that's something special, because it's not how big and complex the world is amazing, and it's so much more than feels right. It just feels overwhelming to think about even the number of people in one city. But God knows you as if you're the only person in the world. There's something real special about that. It's scary at first, but then when you stop and really think about it, it means a lot. My wife and I were just talking about the DNA tests you can get these days, where they kind of tell you your family history through your genetics. And I thought that's pretty cool, because I'm really interested in that. You know, a lot of people kind of oversell it, because you are not actually, like, my family has probably been in America for long enough that I do not actually have any living relatives who were from another country originally. And I have no living relatives who were, like, born non-American, but I know, because my sister did a DNA test, and so I know that we're all, like, 90-something% Irish, Scottish, and English. And so it's, like, that's our kind of genetic history, probably, but, like, it's not the same as our family history, because our family came here so long ago that I don't know anybody in our family who actually was from Ireland, Scotland, or England. And I know, like, some of our family, I think, came over from Germany, but they must have not even been in Germany for more than a couple generations at the most. But it is interesting kind of looking back at all that, your family tree, because I'm not one of those people who thinks that who your family was and your ethnicity or anything like that affects your personality, but it does kind of just give you an idea of the history, and that's really interesting. I am a big fan of history. I really like knowing a lot about it, and I like listening to podcasts about history, both ancient and more recent. But I also like kind of like not even just like human history, but the history of the world and biological history. Kind of brings me back to what I was saying before lunch there. I was talking about, how the universe is so big, but people kind of get scared about how big it is, I think, and so that's kind of why so many Christians kind of dismiss the idea of alien life, despite it being just more proof of God, in my opinion. But I think the same thing is also true with evolution, because evolution is a really touchy topic with a lot of Christians still, and whether you believe in it or not, it's like a lot of times people find it hard to reconcile the idea of an earth that evolved over the course of millions of years and an earth that was created by God in a single day, and life in a few days. But I think it comes back to not really understanding what all-powerful really means, because when we think of time, often we think of it as something very fixed, because for us it is, but God's all-powerful. He doesn't just control like big things. He's there in everything, and he's not bound by the same rules that we are. And so many people just kind of dismiss that fact when considering the coexistence of theology and biology, because evolution is provably real, and it's actively going on, and dinosaurs were here. But just because they were here millions of years ago doesn't mean that God didn't also create the world thousands of years ago, in my opinion. Because I just think if God's all-powerful, he didn't have to wait for millions of years for the earth to be just right to put humans on it. He could have created 1,000,000 years of history in a single second. He's not constrained like we try to make it sometimes. So when God said he made the world in 6 days and everything on it, he can make that happen literally in 6 days, while at the same time creating an earth and a universe that is billions of years old. He doesn't have to wait for time to catch up with his plans. He just makes the time already have happened. And so I think when people kind of find these supposed contradictions in the Bible with observed phenomena, I think it's just that they don't really believe that God's all-powerful. They try and put him in a smaller box where God is infinite and he's eternal. That doesn't mean that he exists forever. That means he exists outside of time as we even understand it. Because God isn't just somebody who's all-powerful within our universe. He created our universe. He's not from inside it. He's from before and beyond anything we know. The Bible says he is greater than all we could imagine, but people still don't imagine as big as is even possible to. Like, I imagine a God who existed not before time began, but outside of time, so that time never even existed. And that's why he wasn't created. Time doesn't apply to God. And so it's just kind of ridiculous to think that, oh, God couldn't have possibly created the world in 6 days a few thousand years ago. Because how would all this and this have happened? And the answer is simple as God doesn't care what you think about time. He just did it before you even considered it. And he can create things that are older than the time he created them. It's like writing a story. I mean, if you're writing a book, you don't start the book by saying 8 or however many billion years ago there was a big bang. And from that big bang, this happened, and then this ball of gas condensed into a star, which exploded, which then condensed into rocks and another star, which then condensed into rings that condensed into planets that got this ingredient, were bombarded with asteroids and created life. Like, no, you don't start a book like that. So why would God need to start his story like that? Just because his story is told in our lives doesn't make it any less possible that he wrote it in the order he wanted to. His writing isn't words on a page, it's the stars in the sky, it's physics, it's math, it's the essence of the universe, which is so much more complex than we could ever even hope to understand, yet people still think, oh, we've seen this, so we know more about it than he does. And Christians who don't believe in evolution because it contradicts the Bible just aren't letting God be big enough. They're not letting him be powerful enough to do something beyond their understanding. They want it to be simple, like words on a page. But God doesn't work how we want him to work. He created this whole universe for us, but he didn't just wait for us to happen. He made it a lived-in universe so that we're not on our own, so that there are things around us to show us his beauty, to make it self-evident in the universe he created that there is a creator and there is a greater purpose. Not because we read it in a book, but because you can see it all around. Because plants are made of empty space more than anything. Because atoms are so small we can't even see them we can barely even see them in the past 20 years with our most advanced equipment. And even then, a human could never see an atom with the naked eye. But he created light that goes through them and that behaves in such weird ways that we still don't understand it. He created so many things that we've yet to discover, but we just think that because he didn't tell us about them before we were ready, that he doesn't exist because we discovered these things after he wrote them down. But no, it's just because God stopped giving us words on a page doesn't mean he stopped teaching us. It doesn't mean he stopped speaking to us. It's just that things change, and life isn't going to be the same for 10,000 years in a row. Life's gonna change. The world will change. We will change the world. And God continues to speak to us in new and different ways to help us understand the world that He made for us. I just hope that people start to think of Him more as all-powerful in what that really means, that we can't understand everything He's done for us, and we don't have to. If we understood God completely, He wouldn't be a God. You can't understand something that's greater than yourself. People just need to learn to accept the fact that we don't know everything and we never will, but that's okay. The world is still amazing, and even more so because there's wonder and discovery. Oh, I am exhausted. It's been one of those weeks. But it's Friday evening, so hopefully it'll be much better. Oh, I hope the window's fixed so I can just relax when I get home, but I have a feeling that they did not send someone out urgently because our apartments have not been overly cooperative with maintenance. But who knows, maybe they did, and it'll be nice and easy, or at least they'll have patched it up. I was thinking earlier of patching it up with just a trash bag and some duct tape, but I didn't want to ruin the paint because they should have been there by now, for sure. But there's some storm clouds rolling in, so if they are not already done, I'm gonna just patch it up with a trash bag ripped in half and duct tape on either side. And if it messes up the paint, they should have been there earlier. I definitely understand that they're probably incredibly busy and have a lot of people with damage from the hailstorm, but it's just one of those things that is a little annoying when you're specifically told not to make any attempted repairs or alterations in your contract, but then they don't come out for a few days, and so it's kind of like, you know, if I'm not supposed to change anything, the least you could do is show up on time. But I really doubt they would care if I patched it. They'd probably be grateful if I did some work to help repair it. It's just for liability reasons they aren't allowed to say that, because insurance, like, it's good because it lets people do things without worrying too much about losing all their money over every single little detail, but at the same time, it makes you do some very strict things that are not very practical in order to meet requirements to have it. But I know without it, it would probably be even worse. That's what happens when you can sue everybody for anything, though, is you just end up where everybody's so afraid to do anything, they're tiptoeing on eggshells all the time. And you have a million disclaimers and agreements before you buy anything ever. And I get it, because like without regulation, you just get sold poison in your food because it's cheaper than actually selling food. So it's awful. It's just one of those effects of living in a broken world where nobody can be trusted to just do the right thing. Because if everyone could be trusted, we wouldn't need all the laws and regulations. They just tell you what's in it and wouldn't put anything in it that's bad for you. Nobody would lie in court, and it'd just be great all the time. But we live in the world we do, so you gotta have all these little rules and regulations to keep you from getting sued every time somebody trips over their own left foot. Anyway, I probably need to stop complaining so much. It's just a lot easier to bring up and talk on about the things that upset you than it is the things that you're just okay with. Like, I can talk about things that make me mad and the things that make me happy, but it's hard to talk about things in the middle much, you know, because you end up just kind of ignoring those because it just passes by and then it's a bit more forgettable. But really the majority of the day is taken up by the little things that don't mean too much, like driving and pooping and eating. Like, some people really love eating, some people really don't like eating. For me, I enjoy good food and I like it when I'm eating, but I don't like super look forward to it. I just kind of do it, and it's nice in the moment, but I'm not gonna go on and on about my food every single time I eat something new. And I don't really care if it's all that fancy. I just want it to be good. Luckily, I have a wife who's a very good cook, and she enjoys cooking, so she cooks for me, and it makes it easy most of the time to just not worry about it. I am not the worst cook, and like, I can follow instructions relatively well, but I guess I'm just inexperienced in the kitchen, because I can follow a recipe book any day, but I could not do anything from scratch or without at least very strict guidelines in the recipe. But even then, sometimes I just get mixed up on simple things, because like what type of like mixture Bisquick is, because I used to think Bisquick was just a brand of flour, and boy did I learn that the hard way when we tried to make some pineapple upside down cake. When my wife and I were first married, we were making a pineapple upside down cake, and she was like, "Oh, we're out of Bisquick," and I was like, "Oh, just use baking flour, it's fine, it's the same thing." It is definitely not the same thing. That came out like a rock with some pineapple stuck to it. But it ended up being fine. We just, did something else. That was definitely not edible. I know there was something else. Recently I tried, I was making some cake. My mom calls it hurry up cake. And so it's a cake recipe that's just your very basic cake: sugar, flour, shortening, butter, or is there butter? I think there's butter. And then vanilla and eggs. And so you just throw all the ingredients in, mix it up, stick it in the oven. Well, I didn't know that you weren't supposed to pack down the shortening. Like, I just kind of was like, I can't get the shortening off the spoon, I'll just smush it in there. So I packed in the shortening real good. Well, apparently that's too much shortening, because you're meant to just loosely put the shortening in there. And so I ended up with a really thick cake in the center, super moist. It was still good, and the flavor wasn't bad. It just did not turn out like a normal one. And it's just one of those things where I'm not a bad cook. I just don't know all the little details, so I tend to mess up here and there. But 95% of the time, I'd say, if I get in the kitchen, just follow a recipe, I'm good. But I tend to just not enjoy cooking as much as well, so I don't do it. And if I lived on my own, I'd probably still cook just because I know it is cheaper and healthier, but I would probably not cook very healthily, really, because I would just throw stuff in the oven half the time. It's one of those weird things because my wife and I have been together for 5 years now, and before we were married, we were both college students, and so we had the same amount of free time pretty much. And so ever since we started dating, like almost 8 years ago now, 7.5 years ago, ever since then, we just were together every single meal. There wasn't a single meal or time of the day we spent apart unless we were in separate classes, pretty much. So we ended up just getting used to always being together. And before we had gotten together, it was our freshman year of college when we met and started dating. So I had just graduated high school. Well, it wasn't her freshman year of college, it was mine, her second year. But I had just gotten out of high school and started dating her, and we started doing everything together. And, you know, I was living in the dorms up until we got engaged. And then after we'd been engaged for about a year, I moved into an apartment with somebody else on campus, one of my friends. And then after that, once I moved out of there, me and my wife were married. So I just never lived alone, really. I never experienced that. And I don't know how I would have done living alone. I feel like there would have been some ups, but also just I tend to be a little more secluded. So if I don't kind of force that social interaction at work or in a dorm or something, I ain't gonna get it. So it's nice. It's been nice not having to live on my own, but sometimes I just wonder what it would be like. Well, that's all for today. Bye.